It was very nice to be in Manchester last Thursday. As we see, there's more going on in Manchester today. And if anybody arrives to join us, it will be lovely. And otherwise, hello. I know I saw, is that Chevy? I can't see who's there. But I did see that there was a missed call somewhere and I put my phone down somewhere. But we're all good. We just keep going up a daily. Huh?
We've got a couple of ladies here, but not on the screen yet, but have joined you. So thank you so much.
Lovely. And I've got Dahlia sitting and packing Beis Hamikdash magnets, and Sarah Castell is coming to sit here and pack salt and yeast for our challah. And Hashem will look after all of us in every different area and place that we all need to be. I keep with me my bookmarks that we have our Katufim, our hostages with us. We have to daven as hard as whatever. This morning there was a gun at our kindergarten that was hit. Baruch Hashem, nobody was hurt there. We've got to look at the Nisim, but we lost another four holy neshamas, and another four families that have to deal with. We also lost Gidon Buswell. Now what I'm saying, Chaim. Well, that's probably going to go back. Anyway, so his father's no, I'll ask no. So we are learning Le'ilu Nishmas, Mama Rochel. I don't know if she needs that.
Sorry.
Gidon Chaim Pesach. Gidon Chaim Pesach Ben Binyamin. Yeah. Oy, Shamas and his family should just be comforted. Okay, it's today in Beit Shemesh, no? Will be today in Beit Shemesh.
Beit Shemesh.
Yeah. 3 o'clock. So I do literally ask Hashem every day. See, one of the problems I can't sit at that side of the table because we have so much sun. We have so much sun, and even the glare generally when there's no sun, but there's a lot of sun. Oh, there's probably Sarah. She's actually got the key, but she probably doesn't want to use it. And we count all our blessings. So today we're counting the blessings of our son, and we are saying, okay, let's see where we can get to, and let's see what we are going to do. And being the Yotzat of Mama Rochel, I thought that it was definitely a perfect opportunity. I should have told you that you could actually use a trolley to push it home. I forgot how heavy it was. So that means Sarah and from Gibraltar. You just pull any seats, anything that's on a chair, wherever. You can sit, just move everything off. This work bag, that work bag. Oh my gosh. Okay. So on the yacht side, it is always good be able to speak about people and the things and the lessons that we learn. So I have, I actually did put it up, but I should put it on, Mama Rochel. And I have my beautiful Mama Rochel. The truth is that I'm not an artist at all, but I have lessons from, you know what, put me 2 tablespoons of salt into containers. And don't worry about spilling on the table. And then, no, whatever, just do like, no, you know what, Dal? I think we probably need salt first. I just need another tablespoon from the kitchen. Okay, sorry, girls, let's go. We're doing this all in the course of Klal Yisrael and all of our different things that we do. And that's why I'll try to emphasize, Shalom, and I'm sorry I couldn't answer. You've been funny, and then there's always something going on. So it's lovely to have you with us. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, Joanne. I did want to speak to you, so maybe after Shia?
Good. Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And I'm just actually going to put it out there now and say we are looking to see if we can get a group of people, hopefully today we will have a flyer out, and I saw that the tickets have gone not cheap but down to Eretz Yisrael, and I thought it is a perfect opportunity for January time to try and get us to at least, and I think maybe Mashiach's going to be here before anyway, so it's going to be like a Mashiach planning trip, like where we're going to go to and have a look at the places, because it's not going to just happen in 2 minutes. What we're davening for now is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu spares all of us, and that we zoiche, that we really merit to come and to join Mashiach in this new life. And you know, when I saw this, when I saw the things about what's going on now in Amsterdam, and I'm thinking, you know, we're just not in control. I was listening to Rav Mendel Kesem last night, and he was explaining the way that Mashiach's actually going to come. And if we see all the things that have taken place and how Trump even got in to stand for elections and whatever it was, you know, we've got to look at how Hashem orchestrates everything. And the hardest thing is when Hashem does something and he actually makes us into he'll give us a challenge of us seeing what's going on. He'll give us the challenge and say, you know, do you still, you know, hold on, because I'm here with you, and whatever it is that I am doing is for your good. Whatever it is that I'm doing is totally for your good. And I think that that's something that is very, very difficult for all of us. And we literally have to be able to focus and to learn and to remind ourselves daily. So there's a new book, I don't have it here. It's Rabbi, oh gosh, okay, I won't even say it. But it's the new Ani Ma'amin, which gives us an ability to learn Ani Ma'amin be'emunah shalema every day. We can't learn these things just randomly. We have to remind ourselves daily, because the challenges are huge. And every time we see these things, and I get another message and another, I think like, Hashem, what? Come, enough. Your children can't do this anymore. And then we go to Mama Rachel, So we are so blessed. More than anything in the world, we just have to count our blessings that we are born into this incredible, unbelievable, awesome, amazing nation of Jews. And Hashem has given us this blessing that is so far beyond anything that we can actually imagine. Imagine having the choice of everything in the world, or imagine having the choice of just sticking to what we need to do. Then our big questions are, how do we behave? Do we keep quiet? Do we talk about something? Do we do this? What are those things we need to do? How do we be able to allow ourselves into a place where we're just going to be in a space of just safety? And I don't mean physical safety, I mean in a personal safety. And this world that we're coming into and what we're seeing around us is so scary, but it is all the plan of how Mashiach is going to come. And when you watch Rabbi Mendel Kesem speak, it's just factual. It is factual. This is what's happened. We're going back to the time where Esav will serve his brother. How many times do we have to go and see this? Yaakov and Esav, and he will serve the younger one. He will serve the older brother will serve him. He will be the one that will serve his brother. And we have to remind ourselves, says Rabbi Kesem, this is prophecy. This is prophecy, and this is the story. We have to live through it, and we have to hold onto the rope and know that we're at the end of the story. We are the generation that is closest ever to bringing Mashiach. Talia, what did you say when I offered you coffee?
I know, I didn't feel like
I'm sure I offered her coffee, and she said no, and then she went and made her own coffee. Shall I take it personally and say that she doesn't like the way I make my coffee? No, I will not say that, because it doesn't. Okay. We are literally at the space where Hashem is saying to us, there's a whole box of them outside, my love. Hashem is saying to us, literally, hold on, because it's happening. Watch what I'm doing. Watch how I'm protecting you and looking after you. Look who is now, what's he called? The new
Argentina.
Trump. No, forget Argentina's now. His second man in charge is Jewish. His second man in charge is Jewish. And what's his name? Help me.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
What's the Twitter?
Seriously, too much has happened in my phone already from this morning. The guy from Miami that Trump announced as being his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, that's his name. Remember his name, because he needs every single blessing in the world to succeed in what he's doing, because he is so pro-Jewish. And when we understand, look at what Hashem is doing. He's orchestrating this whole thing for us. He is looking and he's taking and he's saying, I'm going to show you. Just watch carefully and see inside what's going on. It's not going to come easily, but it's happening, and I'm doing this all for you. And I think that when I look at some of the little things that happen in the world, tiny little things, because we're only part of this tiny little bit of where we are in the world. And I think that one of the things that we see, especially, I got a message last night from somebody who came with me. Actually, she's from Manchester. You all know Hadassah Steinberger. Maybe you don't, who is now Hadassah coroner. And she's living, actually, if you can believe it, in Austria, because her husband is Austrian. And when she came with me on a bat mitzvah program, and her and Ruthie Koren and Mir Hashem, she should find her zivug soon. And I went, it was the year before COVID, and I went there and I said, come, I said, we were at Mama Rachel, because we always go to Mama Rachel on our trips, and we all were davening, and we were leaving, and I said, did you go and daven for yourself? I said, did you daven for yourself? And she was like, oh no. I said, while we're getting on the bus, both of you go back to Mama Rachel, and you go and stand between Nava's dress and Mama Rachel, and you go and daven. And it was a crazy story how she got together, and they dated only on Zoom, and then he came to Manchester, they met, and the next minute they were engaged. Then they were made this amazing, the wedding had to change a couple of times, the date, because of all the COVID restrictions. And then it was like, oh goodness, again, we've got to change the date. And they changed the date, and she was like, and then she looked at the Hebrew date, and she messaged me, and she says, you know what? Everything was so frustrating with this date and that date, and only having 20 people anyway. And then I realized their wedding was on Mama Rachel's yahrzeit. How gorgeous. So it's her anniversary today. So she messaged me last night just to say that whenever it comes to their anniversary, she thinks about how I told her to go back and talk to Mama Rachel. So I was looking at Mama Rachel, and I'm thinking it was Mama Rachel, and we had Nava. You know, beautiful Nava Applebaum, who was murdered the night before her wedding. And we know the story of Mama Rachel and her wedding, and how she had to wait for 14 years, and what it's a tzedakah, and how she gave the message to her sister and just didn't want to let her be embarrassed. Can you imagine such a thing? But then when I think about it, and we say, what were your plans? When I have my bat mitzvah programs, and I say to these little girls of under 12, I said, anybody thought about what their wedding dress wants to be? Anybody thought about what their wedding dress wants to look like? And everybody's like, oh, maybe one kid in the whole thing doesn't really care, but otherwise everybody's happy. So you want to plan your wedding. And imagine, you know that you're getting married, and for 7 years you're planning a wedding. You know, here we panic in 3 months. You can do it in 6 weeks without panic. I can tell you that much. You really can. You can definitely do it in 9 weeks, because we did one. And you can do it even quicker. You've just got to decide what you're going to let go of. But sometimes we have to have, maybe a bird. a whole year because you need the production and the planning. And it was interesting. I just recently did a chalamek for a girl who was getting married on in Israel, and they actually cancelled because of the war, and then they moved it to Marbella. I don't know what's wrong with London, but it's okay. And it was like so because like you plan the whole year on Maine. You plan the entire year, and then you have 6 weeks or something. You make a wedding. It can work. It happens even in Spain. But our plan and our thoughts, and we're planning all the different things. And then comes to the day before your wedding, and you hear what's going to happen. You're not going to marry this person because somebody has actually duped you, your dad. And you've got to now share that thing. And can you imagine what it feels like? And yet, she was big enough to do that. It wasn't the same with Nava. Nava was the night before a wedding. She went to have her last conversation with her dad at a coffee shop, and they were murdered. She was murdered, and it's so they wanted to give away Nava's wedding dress that was never worn, and nobody wanted it. They tried for a long time to give away this wedding dress set, and nobody wanted the wedding dress. And finally, somebody said, "Let's put it up next to Mama Rachel." When you go to Keva Rachel, and on the side, you come down to the bottom on the side of the one wall, there's this beautiful dress that was never worn. There's only a piece of the material, so you can't see it as a dress, but you could imagine it. I say the power of what it is that we have through our tefillah and through our connection. And Mama Rachel knew, she had prophecy that her beautiful children were going to be landing up having to go on the way, and they all needed comfort. And they could stop on the way. But can you imagine what it's like for Mama Rachel just being alone? She's alone at the side of the road. She was there for 1,000 years, and then until we realize how much we need Mama Rachel. So today, Mama Rachel is going to be packed, and everybody goes in, and everybody goes there and sits there with their bechi, with their own cries. And I thought to myself, what a pity we can't go and sit with Mama Rachel, but we've got to remember that we have the energy of Mama Rachel. We have the energy of Mama Rachel. So I've got my 2 very amateur pictures of Mama Rachel across the way from me, right here, with the yahrzeit candle, and actually beautiful stuff, the lily just on the side. I have to move my pictures and things around because it puts something into us. We all need visuals. I need visuals. We need reminders. If there were like these, if I was one of these people that puts all these notes up on my wall outside, big pretty pictures. Listen, see, what do you think? Why do you think we have pictures of a Beis HaMikdash? To remind us. We shouldn't have to have a picture because we think about the Beis HaMikdash all the time, but every time something happens, we look, and then we see the Beis HaMikdash on our fridge. You go into the fridge. I go into the fridge too many times in the day, early in the morning, late at night, however many times in between. And what do you see? You see your picture of the Beis HaMikdash. So if we haven't had a moment we thought about it, we take that opportunity, good morning, we take that opportunity to listen, okay? We take that opportunity to remind ourselves, what are we doing here? We're trying to bring the Beis HaMikdash. What are we doing here? We're reminding ourselves that we're missing something. But we're also telling ourselves that it's coming very, very, very soon. And very soon we're all going to be in this incredible, beautiful space. So it was a very interesting space because I think one of the things that we have to look at is that each of us can learn something different, right, from Mama Rachel. We can all take into our own lives things that we do when we do something betzina, when we do something privately. There was a beautiful article, and I don't know how many of you read this, but I want to share it because one of the stories was of a woman who chose to help a close friend who was really struggling. And her friend needed meals and all sorts of she needed a lot of physical help and she was really struggling. So this wonderful lady made what people thought she'd, and this person would only take help if nobody knew where it was going to, and it was very, very, very challenging. So for a few years, her friend made her meals. Made her meals. Oh, no, it was months, whatever, I can't remember. But she made her meals. And every single day, there were these fresh meals. Every single day, there were fresh meals that were delivered to the house, and no one knew who they from. But what it did for this woman is it actually made her feel like a mother, and she could give her children, she could feed her children, and all the time something different. And the way she cooked also for herself at home. And the interesting thing was that the friend never knew where it came from. She never knew where these meals were from. So in reality, she actually never thanked her friend. And when she was back up and running and doing much better, they would go out and they would do things. But her friend never ever knew that it was her doing this every single day, day in and day out, and day in and day out. And she never got the thanks for doing this. Do you know what it was? She knew where her thanks were coming from. And ultimately, I'd never assume Shana, for both of them are going to be in a place, Mashiach comes, that they're going to be able to, they'll see each other, and Mashiach's going to have the energy of Mashiach, and she'll be able to. You were the one that provided those all the time. How can I thank you? And what do we see when we really understand that what we've done that's so huge? Who needs thanks? Because why did we do it? Because it helped each and every one of us. And we don't live in that world today. You know, what are we taught? We're taught as Jews, we say thank you. We spend our lives saying thank you. We thank Hashem every day. Every time we daven, we're thanking Hashem for all the things that we have. When we make our brachas, you know, when you say in the morning, Shelo asani goy, think about your option. What a gift, right? Even when we say Shasani Kirtzona, when people say to me, like, oh, you know, it's a, do me a favor, be so grateful. Look what you can do, and look who you can become, and look at all the things that we are. And look at and think about yourself as being the electricity without the light bulb, because without you, nothing works. You just keep going. You're there. What an unbelievable gift. Hashem made us according to his will. And when we think about these things, that everything, what do we say? We say, thank you, Hashem. Shmona Esrei, you thank Hashem. Before we ask Hashem for anything, we thank him for what we've got. What a gift. And we see that we take all of the qualities that Hashem has actually given us, the qualities that Hashem gave to each of his imahot and abot and all of our prophets and everybody along the way, we see that really what Hashem wants to say to us is actually something of all of these people and everybody exists in you. We're part of us. And what we're learning to do is when we emulate and we try and learn from their qualities and how they behave and the things that we do, that for us has to be a way of learning how to perfect our midas. And in this book called Olam HaMidas, it's very clear that what are we doing here in this world? We're just here to perfect ourselves and to become better people. And how do we do that? We've got to learn from somewhere. We've got to learn how to do it. And doing it according to what we think, right, in a secular world or in a world, unless it's governed by Torah, unless it's properly governed by Torah, we have absolutely no clue on how to do this. And that for us is something which is so really, really, really important. And it's very interesting. So I'm going to share with you this beautiful idea of Rachel and her compassion, and also the power that really we have to understand that what is this that we can actually bring out of ourselves. So when we know that Rachel, we know, was unique. How do we know that Rachel was also unique? I mean, we say they all were unique. Sarah, we have our candles of Sarah May. Now I keep my candles prepared from Shabbos to Shabbos just to remind me that there was somebody whose candle stayed from Shabbos to Shabbos because she was the centrality of the home. That's who she was. Her bread stayed fresh from Shabbos to Shabbos, and her sourdough must have been yum and very filling. And when we have sourdough and we see that there's no yeast, here we're busy packaging little tubs of yeast, because without that yeast, our challah, nothing's going to happen, because in that amount of time, so we need another active agent. But I don't think that Sarah had that. Huh?
What happened to the sachet I did?
Oh, well, I had these anyway. So that's what we'll do, salt, and I'm ordering the sachets this morning. So it's fine. We'll have both. And so we'll do whatever we have and everything. Dahlia's asked me what happens. We said we're going to get, instead of, no, you don't even have to use that. We're first going to do the salts. Once we've done salt, then we'll worry about that. I just did them last night just to show Aviva that it actually works. So we see that we have to learn something from everybody. And you know what? We learn something from everyone. We just have to learn from the right people. And one of the things of just being, and I quote this because it's just so beautiful and so special, Rebbetzen Altuski, Rebbetzen from Altuski. So I took my granddaughter, she'd spoken fast, and then my granddaughter had to leave a bit early, which was an hour and a half after she started Bliain Hara. And then she was speaking in Edgeware. So I wanted my granddaughter, well, I would have taken them all, but the one was in Edgeware. So I took her to get a bracha from Rebbetzen Altuski. And anyway, so when we got there, was before she had started, and Bliain Hara, my granddaughter's a nice, she's a tall girl. And Rebbetzen Altuski is she's very tiny, she's petite and not exactly tall. Anyway, so first thing, what does she do? She gives her a bracha. She says to her, Maidela, you know, that you don't have to worry when you get married, you know, that you marry somebody who's taller than you. A lot of our Gedolim, their wives were taller than them. So I'm thinking, like, Rebbetzen Altuski, she still has to finish school, and then she'll get the bracha for getting married. I said, well, it's never too early to get a bracha for getting married, so we're okay on that one. But it was so beautiful. And she was like, she saw this beautiful tall girl. Keep it in the back of your mind. If you meet somebody who's worthy of it, don't worry about the height. Anyway, she quoted and she said that Rav Moshe Feinstein was not Harav HaGaon Moshe Feinstein when he got married. And he married a very beautiful girl, was tall, nearly a head taller than him, and from whatever great family. And somebody said to her, like, what do you want to marry, you know, Moshe Feinstein? He's like, so, you know, he's much shorter. She said, in my eyes, he's 10 foot tall. Again, another lesson that we learn from what I call our Gedolos. When you went and stood with Rebbetzen Kanievsky, or Shalom, you know, Lahavdil. I actually said to Rebbetzen Altuski was here during the Levaya of our Rebbetzen Kanievsky. And you saw you could see on the screen, it was literally, the kever was just covered in black hats. Black hats. There was a sea of black hats. And obviously, you know, she'd been taken to a kfura about the chashuvim of the chashuvim and all the yeshivas. And Rebbetzen Altuski looked at me and she said, Viber, the woman should be taking her. And I was here, yeah, this is the way. And again, a lesson that we don't even think about, but that is imparted because the core of everything of who she is and where she comes from is around Torah. Everything. You know, when she shares stories about it, it's just her stories of bringing it and bringing literally the holy people that we have around us all over today and showing us, you know, we've just got to look for this. But we are all continuations of the Sarahs, the Rivkas, the Rachels, the Leahs, the the Tzipporas, the Yehudisas, the Yaels, we all have within us a part, the Dinas, the Chavas, the everybody, you know. But this is something that we have to remind us, and I did say Rivka, okay? So these are the things that we look at and we look for. So we know that Rachel was really unique. She's the only one that isn't buried in the family in the cave of the Machpelah, in the Marsa Machpelah. And that is a place that I really try and go to a little bit more regularly when we can get to Eretz Yisrael, and to go to Marsa Machpelah. Obviously, if it's safe, then we go. But it's very special actually going there. And when I was last there in, I can't remember, June, I happened to go with Rebbetzen Gottlieb and Rebbetzen Nevenzel and a group of very chashuv ladies on a bus. And we actually went to the kever of Rus and Yeshai. And they were actually going to do it in the opposite direction. First go to kever Rachel, then Rus and Yeshai, and then back to Yerushalayim. And when I told, I had to leave early because I had a wedding to get to, so I was going on the Eged bus. And I thought I wasn't even going to get to Hebron, so for me it was just getting there. And suddenly I said that they're actually going up to Rus and Yeshai to go to Dublin first. And then, yeah, we're living, we walk in our history, we walk in who we are. We are so, it is written there. It's written in the Torah, these people. And we're there. We have the ability to go. And when we're there, we literally have to understand that nobody can deny us of it. Anybody can try. But Hashem has his way of making sure that we're going to get there. So I always have to get to Kever Rachel as well. I even say sometimes it's easier to get to Kever Rachel than it is to the Kotel. And I have a friend that we always try and go. You've just got to know that it does close between 10 or 10:30, and for an hour they have to close it for security and to get people not to sleep there. But when we got there the last time, we literally had 7 minutes, and it was just, we got there, we were in. You could get there, we could daven, and then we had to get out. And it's not nice when somebody tells you to leave a place that you feel you want to be. And there was Mama Rachel, and just said, Mama Rachel, you've just got to be with every single one of us, because when you get there, you just have that feeling of that internal bechi coming out, that internal cry come out. So the Torah tells us that her burial place is on the way to Ephrat in Bethlehem. So what do we learn, right? The matriarchs were prophetesses. The matriarchs were prophetesses whose level of prophecy sometimes surpassed even their partners, even their mates. Rachel understood that generations later, her children were to be exiled from the Holy Land, and she prepared it and gave up her rightful burial place, right? She prepared for this, and she gave up her burial place in Hebron. Hundreds of years later, when the exile actually happened, the prophet Yirmiyahu accompanied the nation on their tragic journey, beseeched Hashem for mercy and their punishment be lessened. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol nהיה bדברו.
Amen.
I do feel like that right now. We just ask Hashem, just keep us safe, and let us do what we need to do in safety, and let us all get out to the right place in the right time. The merit of the forefathers and even Moshe himself was not enough to change the decree. But when Rachel wept on their behalf, that they be returned once again to their land, as they passed her burial place in Bethlehem, Hashem answered Rachel's tefillahs. Her prayers had the effect of arousing Hashem's compassion for his errant nation. Imagine one holy woman. Why? What does she go back and say? So what was so unique about her that she received the desired response more than any other righteous leader. So we know that the Hebrew word Rachel means a sheep. Of all the animals, a sheep is the most passive. A sheep's will is instinctively nullified before the shepherd's. Yet even the toughest shepherd succumbs with mercy to the helpless belief of the little shepherd. This tiny little sheep. It's like, because Rachel realized her potential in nullifying her will, even after she passed away, she was able to come to the aid of her people by arousing Hashem's compassion. It was for this reason that Rachel selflessly gave up her place of her burial in Hebron when Hashem decreed that her time on earth was to end. Rachel was the cornerstone of Yaakov's household. It was Rachel for whom Yaakov toiled for 14 years so that he could marry her. Yaakov was the spiritual leader and the prophet of his generation. And the obvious place for Rachel's burial would be at his side, in Hebron. But Yaakov knew of Rachel's desire to be buried in Bethlehem, and he fulfilled her wish. Not only did Yaakov know that Rachel was willing to give up the eternal honor for the sake of her children, but he knew that she felt truly joyous to be able to do so.
What was in Bethlehem that she wanted to be there?
Well, that was on the road.
Yeah.
The travel would be when they were, that was the road that they would have to walk along. It's not like highways or A to Z's or any shortcuts or under tunnels
so how
today.
did Rachel know that's the place she wanted
Because
to be?
that's where she knew that would be the journey. Through prophecy,
through
that would be the
prophecy.
journey. That would be the
Right.
journey. And the journey would go through Bethlehem, past Ephrat, and they would come to, the exile would go through Bethlehem. So she knew that that's where she wanted to be. She also knew that in burial, she would remain isolated for thousands of years for the sake of descendants who would live generations after. She knew also that these future offspring would have very little merit, and still she sacrificed herself for them. This is what we call true nullification. This is Rachel. In the face of utter selflessness, lasting millennia, Hashem responded with compassion to her. What were her tearful cries? They bore fruit because your deeds are certainly rewarded, Hashem answered her cry. The Jews would be returned to Israel. Their redemption came before her personal honor. And we've got to look at this absolute spiritual giant and say, what can I do in my tiny little world that I can reflect and be a Rachel? What can I do in my tiny little world that makes me into that Rachel? So it was interesting. Last night they had also in London, I don't know if anybody in Manchester went to hear lovely Suri, whatever Suri's name is. And that must be a pigeon, I think. Suri's her beautiful presentation on her Hafrashas Challah and how we daven literally when we are Mafresh Challah and we ask Hashem that He should literally answer every single tefillah. And they've started doing regular Hafrashat Challah. People bring their dough and everybody makes a bracha. And we do this for different things. I went one a couple of weeks ago for somebody's refuah. And we went again, and all these little things that we need and we know that we need to be doing. So last night, for the schus of Rachel Imenu, and in the schus of all of the single women should find their zivug, I said, you've got to start davening for the single men, you know? Because if you're just davening for the women, why are we only davening for the girls? You've got to daven for the men as well. We've got to daven that they should be zoicha, to find their part in wanting responsibility and to want to marry an Eishes Chayil. And to want to marry a girl who wants to keep a beautiful Jewish home. So I said, we mustn't forget about the boys. You've got to daven for them too. In fact, maybe they need a little bit more tefillah, you know? it's a little bit, a little bit difficult thinking, taking on the responsibilities of all. I mean, we basically look at them and say, you're going to become responsible, even if you're going to make your wife work. But if you're going to learn Torah, we're going to do the same. We want to be able to do that. Why do we want to be able to support a beautiful Jewish home? Because that's what we want to bring into the world. And how beautiful. So we have to be looking after both sides. But it was an interesting thing because the girls, Baruch Hashem, all these gorgeous, beautiful, young women building beautiful Torah homes. And I'm saying, well, you know what? On Thursday night, we've got another kind of Afrashas Challah. And they would say, wow, that's not really for us. I'm saying, of course it's for you. Because you need to come there and be a dugma ishit, be an example, be a kiddush Hashem, be an example to show all the women. This is how we make our challah all the time. This is how we pour our tefillah into our dough. This is how we ask Hashem, help us. We want to take something which is ordinary and we want to elevate it. We want to do that with every single thing that we do. We want to take ordinary things and elevate them. I'm going to show you something. John, just pass me a tub of salt, please. Thank you. See? Well packed, beautifully measured, and it's going to bring out the flavor. The salt is there to bring out the best in a person. The salt is there to bring out all of our potential. Without the salt, you can have beautiful, beautiful, beautiful challahs, risen beautifully, platted beautifully. But if you put no salt in, there's no flavor brought out. We have to remind ourselves that the salt is part of the things that we have to listen to how we behave. We take salt, this ordinary salt, and we're going to elevate it by putting it into our challah. Everything that we're going to take, it's going to go into that challah. It's going to be elevated. How's it going to be elevated? It's going to have a bracha made on it. It's going to go onto our Shabbos table. Ordinary things. We forget about these ordinary things, which you take ordinary food and you cook it because you're doing it and you're building it to make sure that you've got it in your family's home to feed them. You've elevated it. By us keeping kosher, we elevate it. Everything that we do, we change through doing literally nothing. But we've got to recognize and say, Hashem, you know what? My friend over here is going to Costco soon. I can't ask her to buy me a ready-made chicken for $3.99. I'd love to buy around the corner a ready-made chicken for $3.99. But we pay $10.99, $11, $12. I don't know how much we pay if we buy a kosher ready-made chicken. So one of the things that I like to do when I'm going to Costco, I walk past because the salmon's right next to the chicken, and you see these chicken legs in their tub. You look at the price and you think, are you joking? And then you look at the feathers and there aren't any there. And then you say, are you joking? Yeah, they're clean, they're sad, and everything. And you say, you know what, Hashem? I'm not going to buy it because I'm one of your children. I can only buy it if it's kosher. We've elevated our thought process of kashrut. You keep kosher. Every single time you're making a choice of buying a kosher product and saying, I check my bag for bugs. I do this, I do that. Every time you are reigniting the positive commandment of keeping kosher. So you're keeping it all the time. How stunning. So easy. We just have to have our thought process. Every time I think of the salt, I think of the story of Bobby Newman with her diamonds in her shoes and how we got so much salt with so much bracha. And all the people that were inspired to make challah through any of those challah makes, it all goes in her schus. She should be well and healthy ad 120 shana to greet Mashiach. And Rachel Imenu, she's waiting for us. She's literally waiting for us. So when we look at women in Malchus, it tells us that according to the Kabbalah, that there are 10 spheres, 10 divine influences, that levels which Hashem's bounty is filtered down into this world. So when we talk about elevating ourselves through the 10 spheres, okay, we usually know of 7, but there are 10 spherot, okay, that we need to. Hashem gives us things through these bounties. So we sending up and he's sending down. And it is filtered down to this world, to the world we are in. Rachel corresponds to the last of the spiritual spheres. She is Malchus. She is kingship. This sphere is uniquely known as the recipient sphere, because being on the bottom rung, so to speak, it receives all the spiritual influences to the preceding 9 spheres. In order to be a receptor, this is very important, in order to be a receptor for their influence, Malchus, kingship, humbles and nullifies its identity. So we don't even recognize it. But this is not the picture of what really Malchus means. Malchus helps each and every one of us to actualize and transmit influence into the physical world of finite beings who live their existence within what we call time, space, and dimension. That's where we are. We're here. Malchus, in a way, is the intermediary between the higher spiritual realms and the material world. Okay? And that's why we're able to use materialism and things for the right things. This is why the attribute associated with Malchus is also dibur, speech. Speech is a way of revealing externally what is hidden in the mind and the soul. Similarly, what only exists in potential within the other spheres is revealed by Malchus. When Rachel spoke and her voice was heard, when Rachel spoke and her voice was heard on high, right? Hashem responded to her request that the Jews be returned to their land. Rachel utilized her well-developed power of Malchus, connecting herself directly to Hashem and to the heavens. So what do we all have? We all have a little bit. That's the power of Rachel. The power of Rachel in every single woman. Okay? So what do? We want to understand Rachel and her relationship to the Jewish nation, because that also helps us to understand the unique connection between a Jewish mother and her children. The status of the mother determines the identity of the soul of the neshama of her child. If she is a Jew, so is her child. Rachel demonstrated the spiritual connection to her future children, regardless of their merit or sinfulness. She is their essential spiritual source. The bond is eternal and absolute. And it's fascinating because I was talking to a friend of mine. So when she was going through Gairus, she was married to a Jewish man with 2 children. And it wasn't a short process. And she wanted another child. But she said she's going to wait until she goes through her Gairus. And it's a funny thing, you know, because sometimes you look at a person and you say, well, you know what? And I said to her, you know, what does that feel like? Because through choice, right? Through choice, you're joining the Jewish people. And you go through a process. Your 2 children, they're going to have to go through Gairus. So you have 2 children that are actually converts in the family. And her other 3 children are Jewish and born Jewish. And she said she, you know, she remembers that very deep feeling of real transformation. But then we have to work so hard for everything. And I said, and so, you know, us Jews have to work so hard for everything as well. Don't worry, we're in it together. We also have to find it. Do you think everybody? Of course. And I remember after a few months we were talking about it, and she said, you know, she says, I get it, you know, I get it. because our process has to be a spiritual bond where we're taking it from. And all Jewish women possess an inheritance from Rachel. Her strongest inheritance is from Sarah Imeinu. That doesn't mean that once we become part of something, our inheritance really becomes from Rachel Imeinu to all of our imams that came before us. A Jewish woman has that inheritance, and we're internal with it. She bequeathed to us the ability to relinquish our wishes and comforts for the sake of redeeming the Jewish nation. That is not a small thing. The unique feminine ability, interestingly, has absolutely no bounds. We've got to create our boundaries. Women have the opportunity to teach other Jews about their identity, their tradition, and spirituality. So when I tell these ladies, girls, you can come there, you can be a dugmai shit, you can see people look at you, they look up to you. Because you share who you naturally are. We share who we naturally are. We shouldn't for 1 minute think that when we're out on the streets, in our Jewish shops, in our different things, that when we're driving and we're parking and we're shouting or somebody's not behaving, or you see somebody that's not behaving as a Christian. Right? Just going to, sorry, Shalana. Okay, right? So we see these things, we say, okay, you know, what do? We have to remind ourselves every moment of the day, wherever we are. Whether it's with our cleaners, whether it's with people outside. I walk through Kosher Kingdom and literally I walk up, you know, if I start at the beginning, I say hello to every single cashier that sees me. Because that's what we do. I take challah rolls to the flower guy at the corner because the one guy that works there is Jewish. And I know his brother. And I didn't know in the beginning. The first time I met him a number of years ago and I saw him there, I actually didn't think he was a Jew. And then he said to me, you know, Mrs. Dove, do you remember who I am? And I'd been chatting to him and I just said, no. He says, well, I'm such and my brother. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I took him challah rolls. And then one day, a few months ago, the ladies said to me, when you give him challah rolls, he just keeps them for himself. So I take them a challah roll, not every week, but I take every few weeks, I give them their challah rolls. Not because there's not another Jew who needs, but you know what? It's good to have a Kiddush Hashem because what they see on the corner of behavior is probably not to be mentioned too much. But we want to look at the good. And there are a lot of most people. So we've got to be able to say, we're a Kiddush Hashem. We have in us this beautiful ability from Rachel Imeinu that we share the identity, traditions of our spiritual, physical, and emotional beings. And it's your responsibility to be a Kiddush Hashem wherever you go. Wherever you go. When there's the cleaner, and literally at the in any place and center that you are. When I was there last Thursday, I specifically went up to the cleaner to thank her. I said, oh my goodness, look at this place. Look how beautiful it looks. Thank you. Yeah. When I go and speak at monks for the older ladies, many of them being looked after by carers, I make a very conscious effort to always thank their amazing carers. When we used to go and visit our beautiful Lily, I took Marika always something, a gift, a food. She loved cream cakes. I used to take them for Safta Lily, and then I realized actually Marika's eating them anyway. Safta could only have a tiny little bit. Early days, she used to have half a little mini milky eclair. She loved dairy things. She loved dairy things. And so did Marika. And she liked my cinnamon buns, although she was supposed to teach me how to make kokosh cake. And now she's gone back to Hungary and she didn't teach me to make kokosh cake. So I tell her she has to send me a video on how to make kokosh cake. Okay? But the responsibility is ours for the taking And the task is enormous, but its results even greater. The final and complete redemption of the Jewish nation. And the Gemara tells us, in the merit of righteous Jewish women, the Jews were redeemed from Egypt, and it is in their merit that we will be redeemed from the present exile. My blessing and my desire, and I'm learning how to mute people quickly, is that each and every one of us can say a little bit of our Rochel Imenu and do our very best to impart it with everybody, mostly with the Jewish nation, in our homes, and may it ripple effect. And may we talk to Hashem and say, you know, Hashem, I've got my Rochel in me. I'm going to try and bring the best Rochel in me out. Please, please, please help me to do that and listen to us, and let us be reunited with Rochel Imenu very, very soon. Wishing everybody a beautiful week. This week is the Shabbos Project Week. Every week is Shabbos Project Week, but this is specifically the World Shabbos Project Week. So take something to learn a little bit more Shabbos halacha. Take something to a neighbor, somebody down the road, somebody further away that doesn't usually keep Shabbos. Even if you don't make challah, buy them a challah. Just do something, and you doing it l'kavod Shabbos Kodesh. If you have Shabbos candles, let them light. Whatever it is. If you get the candles that Marcel used to give out for the soldiers and for our hostages, then do that. But let me tell you something, whatever we're going to do is going to be more than we're going to, and we learn from the zechus of our Nashim Tzadkaniot that each and every one of us should be zocher to bring out that eternal place of being the Nashim Tzadkaniot, and together we'll have our tambourines and our challahs for the Kohanim, and we're going to be there very, very soon. And in the meantime, we're going to hold on to the rope. Okay. Make a beautiful week, everybody, and thank you for being with us. Okay.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Rebbetzen.